Hi folks, you're with Tacitus today, your pushback channel. Thank you for joining this audio live stream. Please listen to this presentation as you would a radio broadcast. In this essay, I'd like to talk about the insane number of college degree, college diploma, certification type diplomas that have been schools and supposed colleges that have been set up in the West to cater for the mass migration market, and the extent to which these scams are just off the charts, but how Western governments are just, and have been for many years, just looking the other way, pretending it's not happening. Recently, there's been quite a minor crackdown in Australia, probably some of the worst examples of these fake colleges. But the globalist media is screaming racism here. The reason being is these fake colleges are used by third world peasants and other, third world people generally. So brown and black folks are used by them to come to a first world country under false pretenses and, gaming the system, scamming the system. But because brown and black people are coming from horribly corrupt countries, are the ones that are most inclined to game the systems and take advantage of this game, whether it be Indian and Chinese people setting up fake colleges in Australia, for example, or Canada or US, Britain and elsewhere, and then bringing in supposed students to study, but they're not students at all. They don't attend these colleges. They go straight to a labour hire firm, which then farms them out to take out food shops and cafes and for cleaning and so on. Now, if you come from a country where each job has 3,000 or 4,000 applicants for it, and then you come from there and then you come to Australia where these labour hire firms guarantee you a job, okay, it's a shit job, it's on shit money, but you're in a first world country, and then you've got the chance that maybe that fake qualification you have will somehow be a path to citizenship, and then you'll be able to bring out your whole family, including your third cousins and your whole village and this sort of thing. So whole villages in dirt poor rural areas of the Indian subcontinent will all pool their money to try and get one of their number, just one of their people from the village into a first world country, in the hope that will lead to all the village going to the first world country. So the incentive for the scams are huge. But what's interesting, I guess, is how the globalist controlled media are viewing any crackdown at all, any restriction, any limitation on the scams as being racist, fascist, Nazi, and the usual Hitler and simply because the people are, these poor oppressed people coming from these third world shitholes, they should be allowed to cheat and to lie and to scam and to game the system. That's okay if they do. If a white person does it, throw those motherfuckers in prison. But if a brown person from a poor country says, that's okay, what are we worrying about? Hey, it's no big deal. Now, there's a few things that sort of interconnect with this. The Australian government and previous governments, not simply the current one, has allowed students to work a certain amount of hours. So they say that someone supposedly is studying a legitimate course, then they are allowed to work, for example, the numbers vary, but for example, 20 hours a week, they're allowed to work. But even this is scam, they don't attend courses, or, they're not going to courses or sitting in a classroom learning or anything like that. The diplomas are guaranteed to them as part of a back-to-back deal that these scam schools have with labour hire companies. So these people come in supposedly as students to study, but they're farmed straight out to labour hire firms. They're given their diploma as part of the deal, a nice written up diploma that they're qualified in, whatever it is, certifications and so on. And then they can use that as a basis for trying to scam citizenship and one's or permanent residence status, which then allows them to start bringing out family members. So it's a massive scam. And to give you an idea, that more than half the intake into Australia and I suspect other countries is family reunion or what's called chain migration in the United States, where once these people get permanent residence status, they can then apply to to bring out again their other family members. Now, to bring out the family members, you're supposed to show that you have, for example, 100,000. This is some rounding numbers off here, but show that you have $100,000 so you can support your relatives when they come out. So the scams even go into here, where there are special, loan scam companies specialising migrant loan scamming, where they will loan someone $100,000 so they can show their bank statement to the government. Say, look, I got $100,000, and the standard of oversight here is ridiculous. For example, how does a cleaner working 20 hours a week and has various other expenses, where did they get $100,000 from? How long have they had it there? Because the minute they've shown the bank statement to the government to say, look, I've got 100,000 here and I want to bring out my aunties and cousins and whatnot, then that's it. It's signed off, and there's no further checking. How did you get that money, Ahmed? If you've, Sula or something, where did that money come from? You only make X amount of money, and you've got all these. How did you manage to get $100,000? Those questions aren't asked, and if they were, then it would be a very different. But there's almost zero oversight here. So they show that they're loaned $100,000 just for one day, and they pay some sort of fee to that to the scam outfit that loans them the money, and then they show they've had the $100,000. Then they give the $100,000 back to the loan outfit that gave them that money, but the deed's been done. They now can bring out their relatives. So the whole thing is shot through with scams. To get to Australia, they have to say that they're attending a college to do a course, and that study course has to be in an area where Australia is allegedly short on skills. So that's all manufactured and invented, and there are immigration agents that do the scam for them. And these illiterate peasants from the middle of nowhere in Nepal and India, and they couldn't put this together. So they've got all these scammers that are doing it in. It's a whole industry in the subcontinent. How we can get you to the first world by any and all illicit means, and people are standing in line to do this. So there's no shortage of takers on it. Now remember, these environments, whether it be Africa or the subcontinent or China, we're talking about places where merit, as we understand it, or did understand it once in the West, doesn't exist. Everything is by corruption and by family networks and systems of nepotism and this sort of thing. Very little happens, if anything, happens outside of this. So to them, this is just natural. This is how you do business. You cheat, you scam, you lie. Now, in addition to that, particularly in India, they view, and Arabic communities as well, and some others, they view the ability to deceive and cheat white people, first worlders, white people. That in itself is a mark of your greatness. I managed to lie and cheat and double deal 50 white people to get into Australia. Oh wow! You're now a demigod, and you're viewed as being your skills at deception are so great that you even scam these white people, and they don't understand the concept of merit but they're not held accountable for these things, or a handful maybe are just for the media publicity of, but they're not held accountable. So if they've scammed $100,000 loan in order to get their relatives out to Australia or the first world, well, why aren't these people being sent back once the scam's discovered? So there's multi-layers of scams, of borrowing money, of fake colleges that don't exist. They exist in name only, and they're supposed to give diplomas and degrees and this sort of thing. Now, the major universities in Australia charge pretty substantial fees for studying there. The scam happens in a different way. Only the rich Brahmins and the Chinese kids of the Chinese Communist Party generals and so on, they're the only ones that can afford. But you're looking at a pool of families there that number between India and China, and the rich approach 100 million. So there's plenty of them to go around, and Australia gets a decent share of it. And these kids aren't worried about working or doing jobs. They come from very wealthy families, and they view that paying for it, again, they come from very corrupt places where patronage and nepotism decide everything, and corrupt payments and bribes. So when they come to a first world country, they believe, well, I've paid for, I'm not paying to go to this prestigious university to study and have a rigorous education, show that I'm a bright kid, and I've earned this degree because I'm a smart dude. And that's not how they view the world. We've paid you this money. We expect a degree in return. We're paying for you to give us a degree. We're not paying to study or paying for rigorous education. We're paying for that bit of fucking paper, and you better give it. Otherwise, we'll go somewhere else. Now, the universities in the West, Australia is no different, have become quite dependent on these students, kids of rich families. They're not students, they're kids of rich families. So they come to Australia expecting and demanding these degrees from these expensive universities. And by the way, if they're doing a master's or a PhD, they'll be spending $500,000 over the time. And the university, just one person, it's a donation, effectively, $500,000, and these people expect a degree, and they better get it. And the quiet word around the university system is that these high fee paying students, you can't fail them. You just can't, because if you fail them, the disgrace and the loss of face and these sort of things is too much. They'll just go to somewhere else, in Canada or the US or Britain, where they can get what they want by just paying for it or bribing somebody. And the same here, even teachers in junior high school, and or even younger than that, they're bribed. They're being offered bribes, substantial bribes too, by wealthy Indian and Chinese families to say, look, I want my kid to come, be the student of the year, or I want their painting to be declared the painting of the year, and you better pass my kid, and here's $5,000 if you'll make sure my kid passes is rated first in the class, and these sort of things. And teachers are constantly being plied with. I don't know how much of that gets caught or taken up, or was it investigated? Charges laid? I mean, you get the odd one or two cases appearing in the newspaper, but you get given just how corrupt these people are, and they come from utterly corrupt societies, and there has to be quite a lot of it. I was hoping that in the very beginning that our ways in the West would change their ways, so they would become less corrupt, but that's not so. If anything, the reverse is happening. But this is the layers of scams that, money moving around, bribes being paying, fake loans, fake colleges, fake degrees, fake certifications. Now, in some cases, like say in certifications for nurses' aides and things like that, there were some of those have been closed down, but there were numerous scam colleges for nurses' aides. So these were people who weren't doing the serious stuff. They were, for example, those places where you're doing blood tests and they've got to take a few vials of blood, that type of thing. So these people were getting certifications that they'd completed these courses, and they were experienced, qualified nurses' aides in these sort of jobs. When in fact there's nothing of the sort. They just come straight from some Philippines or some third world place. They were just given a certificate and off they went. And the companies that were hiring, because they were so cheap to hire, and I assume there was bribery and corruption taking place there as well, these people were then put out en masse into these places. Now, having watched the difference myself personally of the blood taking, the difference between a qualified and unqualified person. The unqualified person sort of hacks around in the arm looking for a vein, trying to find something in a very, talk about a casual manner. If I keep on prodding away, I'll find a vein sooner or later. And someone that really knows what they're doing, they know how to do all the bits to get the vein to be, and then they go straight for it. And the difference is chronic. You look at someone who's had their arm hacked to pieces to get the thing, and they're the whole area is a bruise and a bloody mess, and whereas the professional person doing it, who is invariably white, by the way, gets it first time. Also, if you look at, say, private hospitals, for example, where the standards are pretty high, patients coming there are paying a lot of money to get looked after, so get medical care, and the fees reflect that, by the way. But they have if there's any nurses and other staff, that want to work there, they've got to pass an oral, written, and practical test. So they do a sort of a dummy operating theatre, for example, and the nurses have to. These nurses applying for a job have to show that they know what they're doing. And the rejection rate of third world nurses with full diplomas and all that sort of stuff, the rejection rate's like 100%. They just don't match up, and so some of them, fess up that well, actually, I was just a nurse's aide in a third world country, but I got a corrupt bullshit diploma in Australia, and so on. So this is actually widespread now. When they go and apply for a job in the government type hospitals or medical area, then the scrutiny and the oversight and the testing and the rigor of the testing is much less. And so even if they were nurses' aid from the third world, which is nothing, and which you get just by bribing somebody, and they've got a fake bullshit diploma from some scam bullshit college in Australia or the West, they're still waved through. They've got the bit of paper, they're brown, they're a minority group, who cares? And they just get waved through. So you get these, again, multiple layers. So once you have all these fake degrees and fake certifications and fake qualifications, then you add that to affirmative action and diversity, equity, inclusion, then you're seeing, these people just get waved right through into jobs that they wouldn't have a snowball's chance of getting if there was any rigor or oversight. But it comes back to the thing that the media is screaming about in Australia is once you shut down these fake colleges, it affects brown and black people who are scamming the system. And they should be allowed to scam the system because they're oppressed minorities. And this is insane, but this is where we're at. And if ever there was an advertisement for returning to rigor, this is it. There are things that the government needs to do. Anyone coming here to study, in my view, shouldn't be allowed to work. You're coming to study. If you have so little money that you can't get by, and you have to work, 60 hours a week, and you're not really a student at all, you're just scamming through the labour hire market, then you shouldn't be here anyway. You're not a genuine bona fide student. So this whole area needs to be, I think, looked at with some serious degree of oversight, and all of these scams, multiple layers of scams need to be unravelled and unwound and put a stop to. You've been with Tacitus today, your Pushback channel, and thank you for listening.